Hey, hey, great news. Today we have a new friend, Lisa Erickson. Lisa is an energy worker specializing in women's energetics, sexual trauma healing, chakra manifestation, and kundalini awakening. She is the author of Chakra Empowerment for Women and The Art and Science of Meditation. Both were published by Llewellyn Worldwide. So Lisa is certified in mindfulness, meditation, instruction, and trauma sensitivity, and is trained in a variety of energy healing and somatic modalities. She is a member of the Breathe Network, a nonprofit dedicated to supporting holistic healing and healers for sexual trauma survivors. For more information, you can check her out at enlightenedenergetics.com. But for today, she's hanging out with us here, and we'd love to welcome you to the show, Lisa.
Thank you, Hannah. I'm really glad to be here.
So one of the things that I find true with most of our guests is that something in your life, like you had some experience that inspired you to start to seek out these tools. And I was curious for you if it was you had like direct experience, or if you were just someone who like started to like sense or hear or like feel the nudge at a young age. Really, what got you into tapping into these like energetic tools? What's your story?
Well, yeah, I think there's a few different answers to that. Yes, in retrospect, I realized that I had certain energetic gifts growing up that I wasn't aware of. But the first nudge into meditation and exploring energy work really came in my early 20s after college, when I was in my first job, which was in computer science in business in New York City. And I started having health issues that the doctors could not get to the bottom of. And at one point, one finally said to me, I think this is stress related and you should consider meditation, which at that time, this is over 30 years ago, was actually not that common. And the class I happened to walk into was a chakra meditation class. And that really changed my life. It really changed my life profoundly. And then I had a second leap, which was after the birth of my first daughter, which was 15 years later. And I was very healthy at that point. Meditation was a big part of my life, but I had a big sort of medical crisis after that. And that led me to go deeper into certain teachings that eventually led to the shift in career, because until then I was in business, corporate business.
I think it's so interesting, that embodiment piece. So I often feel like I'm doing the thing. I meditate, I do yoga, I'm mindful, I write down my goals. And then life hands you these opportunities or these experiences to really embody the practice. And I've definitely been noticing in my own life how putting in the reps, right? Like doing the morning routine consistently for a few years now means that I do see weird things or business breakdowns or whatever, life presents us as that opportunity to practice. So what would you say to someone who's like, I'm not in the thick of it, I'm not going through it right now, I think I just need to focus on figuring out, my relationship or figuring out my business? What would you say to someone who's trying to like figure it out in their head? Like, what's the opportunity to pick up some of these energetic tools if you're not like, seeking therapy or in that, rock bottom place, which I think a lot of people wait until they're there to explore these modalities, right?
Yeah. Well, energy is intention. It's directed by our intention. And if you're trying to do anything in your life, figure out a relationship, figure out a business, move anything forward, you need a clear intention. And there's a lot of energy tools that you can use to really empower the direction that you want to go. We talk a lot about manifesting. I'm sure that's a big topic, in your work. And to me, what that really is, there's a lot of energetic levels to that in terms of really refining what is the vibration of what we're trying to create in our life, and how can you work energetically to empower that. And so that you're not just spinning. When we do just think things or we do everything at the mental level, that really is surface level. It's really kind of the surface level. And you really want to be empowering underneath that, right? And also, honestly, when life is relatively calm, meaning there isn't a crisis, that is the time to be working on those deeper patterns, because you have the space to really think about what self-beliefs am I still holding? What emotional patterns are still showing up in my life? Yes, right now they're not a crisis, but when I hit a crisis, they explode, right? And now I have a little bit of space to work on myself in that way and really get to the roots of those and rewrite them.
Yeah, as you're saying that, I am replaying conversations that I have with people who are interested in working with us about marketing. There are two very clear energies that show up. One is like, I need to figure this out. Everything is broken. It's not working. I'm going to run out of money. Blah, blah, blah. And then the other one is, I see the potential. I want to take this opportunity to build and kind of dive in to my marketing strategy. And I've now said to people, like, if this is between paying your rent and paying me, like, pay your rent, figure it out, come back to me in 6 months when you are in this place of not having to force it. Because I see in marketing as my like easy example of this, because there's like very clear results that we can track. And when you come from that place of, you know, I mean, it's abundance mindset in a general way, but looking at your life or your business as ongoing work, right? That you find those eras where you can come from a place of, I want to put in these self-care practices for myself. I want to put in this marketing system for myself, because I know I'm going to be riding the roller coaster of life and business for a while. And one of the things that you said that really stood out to me, and I'm just, yeah, it's Monday morning. I'm in my marketing brain.
Yeah. No, you're triggering lots of ideas for me too. Yeah.
Yeah. But one of the things that you said that really stood out is that you want, paraphrasing, but the power that you have when life is going well to do the work, to look at layers. So what might be some exercises, or what might be a great starting point if you're feeling like, I'm good, I'm fine, like, I'm happy. What are some good exercises to not like create an unraveling, but actually be productive in some of these tools?
Yeah. Well, you do have to look at the past. So you look at the past, the last crisis, right? And I first just have to comment on what you said. I really respect that you'll say to someone, yeah, no, go pay your rent and then come back to me in a different place. Because yeah, that energy of desperation is just undermining. And then there is also that deadline in your mind of, okay, it all has to work by this date. And that just isn't how it is. There has to be freedom to experiment. From my perspective, I prefer the word co-creation to manifesting, because you have to give the universe time to give you feedback. Sometimes that's with something that doesn't work, but it doesn't work. And then you're like, why didn't this work? And you figure it out and you have a breakthrough. And so if you're thinking in those terms, it's all part of the process, right? But you can't necessarily have a fixed deadline for that in terms of, I have to make this amount of money by this day. You know, it's good to have goals. And I think that's a refinement of a lot of the teachings we have right now around manifesting and law of attraction, because there's that whole field of dreams idea. Just go all in, because if you don't, it won't happen. I'm not quite on that bandwagon in most cases. Sometimes it's right, but most of the time not. So all of that may be the kind of stuff someone needs to look at, right? Like, what is the last time that things weren't going well? And what peaked for me? Was it stress? Was it basically that when things got extremely stressful and the deadlines got really tight that I started to lose it? Then now is the time to get those stress management practices in place, right? Was it communications that I started when I was under stress the last time, when there was real problems with my business? My relationship started to fall apart because I was irritable and angry all the time. Well, now is the time to work on those emotional communication skills. So look back on the last crisis. I think there's also energetic tools that I like to use that have to do with looking at the chakra system from the perspective of manifesting, from crown down to root, like from idea to reality. And you can kind of use that as an archetypal framework for looking at where you're strong and where you're not, and strengthen where you might need to shore up a bit.
Yeah, right. Like the breadcrumbs along the way.
Yeah.
You know, I've talked about this on the show before, but in my early 20s, I was very wrapped up in an eating disorder. And there's still evidence of that, right? Yeah. Like, I did a lot of work. That's what introduced me to yoga and even personal development, which then helps me become an entrepreneur. But I can still see some of those breadcrumbs when there is like a stressful time, or when I know I'm going to be in front of people and my anxiety comes up, then I start to worry about like food, body, and weight again. And instead of that being like, oh, I have this big problem, now I'm able to see the cues, right? See the breadcrumbs of like, oh, we're going down an anxious path, or, oh, like stress is picking up. There's our sign to pick up some of the tools that I've learned in my own healing journey. But one that I don't think I've encountered yet is this idea of chakra manifestation that you talk about. So I would love to kind of open Pandora's box here and get the bird's eye view of how we can work with our chakras to manifest. And I think that's something you know a lot about. So fill us in.
Well, and there's a lot of different chakra systems, but I'll kind of stick with the 7 chakra map that a lot of people may be familiar with. Energy centers aligned a lot, just in front of your spine, you might say up the center of your body from your tailbone all the way up to the crown of your head. And they're linked to different physical systems in energy medicine. They're linked to different spiritual states in spiritual traditions, but they're also, our psyche, and they're linked to different energies and vibrations. And the upward pathway is often considered the awakening pathway, the spiritual pathway, bringing the kundalini energy up through all the chakras in meditation, right? The downward pathway is what we're working with in life a lot, from crown to root, the path of something going from idea to reality, right? So in that framework, the crown chakra represents sort of inspiration, feeling inspired, that flash. The third eye represents vision, right? Like you might think of a vision board, or it can just be truly like what you're trying to manifest, what your vision is. Your throat is your ability to communicate that idea. That could be anything from a mission statement to being able to investors, to clients, all the communication, writing your website. Heart chakra is the relationships. This is everything from your web designer to your clients, to your spouse, to your partners, to your, everybody that you work with. The navel is your ability to create plans, project plans, action plans, plans for the week, tasks, and to execute on them. The sacral then is where it gets interesting. It's the feedback loop. It really, within the downward path, has to do with fluidity and adaptability, meaning when things don't go according to that plan, how do you receive that feedback and pivot? And then the root is reality, making something real, something happen. So you have a lot of layers, right? You have the big vision of this, and then every week you maybe have visions of this in terms of individual tasks, but you can use that framework to think, where am I strong? Where am I weak? I'm great at visioning. I am not good at plan, right? I'm great at execution. I'm not good at visioning or communication or attracting clients, or I'm not good at adjusting to feedback when things don't go well. Some people are great vision people and they cannot execute, right? And some people are great executors, but they cannot adapt and pivot. That's a way to look at this framework on the high level.
That is beautiful and makes so much sense. I'm a certified yoga teacher, 200 hours. So I was like very textbook about like, the root chakra being like stability, basic needs, but just taking it with that business lens, or that next level of what that means for how you operate as a leader in your company. And again, I'm thinking about what that means for how you show up when it comes to sharing your gift or sharing your offerings. I just had a conversation with a longtime client who's very much in her spiritual journey. She's always going to like masterminds and energy aligners. And she always comes to me with these like very interesting insights from her personal life that we need to integrate into her marketing strategy. And she told me, my throat chakra is lit up and wide open. We need to do more with me speaking. I need to do more video. Let's change some of the things you're writing into video. And I totally see for her how that was something that she's been working on, her confidence of like, showing up. And this is all making me think about adding this in as a layer of self-awareness when it comes to how we show up in our business. Like you said, look at where you're strong. So besides going off to a retreat like Leslie did and getting this awareness, how can we within ourselves start to understand where our strengths are in this system?
Yeah. Well, I think working with someone like you is a great idea, because you need to have some feedback, or you need to ask people around you to some extent. We all have some idea what our strengths are, but we don't always know, because we need to have some idea of others' perceptions of us. So I think that is partly going on that journey of asking for feedback from those around you is really important in that. To get that other perspective on what your gifts are. But otherwise, I guide people through sort of a going through chakra by chakra, what it might mean, and both in terms of your gifts and your business, because you can also use this structure to think about your business. And you, like you said, you can draw on your strengths, like this client decided to really go all in on that throat chakra. The other feedback it gives you is, where do I need help? What is the best things for me to outsource, right? Because you're going to need help. So you figure out which are the things that I actually am the strongest at, and where do I need the help, right?
I love this, because this is my soapbox, like, live in your zone of genius, delegate the rest. Okay. That would be the thesis statement. I obviously have lots of supporting ideas around that. But ironically, I've been using a lot of masculine or head in your head assessments to figure this out. Like, think about what's your zone of genius, what's your zone of competence, what's your zone of excellence, right? Like, doing these like mental exercises to help our clients figure out what pieces of their marketing they should keep and which pieces we should definitely own. And I'm super jazzed about this idea of taking a more introspection, right? Feeling into it a little bit more. So is there a do-it-yourself version of this, of like, really for people who are so in the head and trying to figure out what to do next? How can we tap in and feel this for ourselves, or recognize those pieces? I think number one, getting feedback is amazing. But I'm just curious, like, what that actually feels like, or if we can, do some intuition with this idea.
Yeah, I mean, that there are exercises you can do just working with the chakras and focusing in on them. I teach a lot of those, and there's other resources for that as well, in terms of really tuning in, getting that body perspective, right? It's almost like energy testing. It's like that body perspective. And I think also what this tool, what I should mention, is what it's really meant to do is give you a framework when you're working towards a goal of doing a daily practice that you're going down through these chakras, specifically empowering according to those tasks related to a specific goal. So you're affirming the original inspiration, you're affirming the visual with the third eye, you're speaking just privately in your meditation something about that goal or what you're trying to do, as if you're visualizing attracting what you need to attract that week. You're thinking about your next 3 tasks is usually what I do. What's the next 3 items, right, in the action plan, all the way down to the root, trying to feel it. That classic that we get in a lot of law of attraction teachings of, what would it feel like when it's already done? That's the last step. That's the root chakra. You do everything else first. It takes 2 to 3 minutes. And when you're working towards something, you use this process daily. So your goal, working towards your goal actually includes this energetic work behind all the other mental and intellectual work that you're doing.
I love it. And you just put, to me, that's like a cheat sheet of manifesting in that morning routine, right? How many of us like write down the goal, visualize it, feel what it's going to feel like, ask for the next step, like it's within us. And I think
this is a way of bringing it in to your body and your energy body.
Integration. So something that's coming to mind now is that I talk a lot about using our feminine energy to inform our marketing. And this was like an amazing experience and opportunity to do that. Now, I hope listeners have already learned from us that everyone has feminine energy, right? We also all have some masculine energy, but are there differences between men and women when it comes to this kind of, tapping into our energetic bodies, or things we should be aware of just between men and women here?
Yeah. And it's a spectrum, we understand that now. There really is a spectrum. Some people may relate more to the masculine end than the feminine end. It's not always tied to biological sex, but there is a part of our subtle body that is tied to our physical body. So there are very real differences in women's energy bodies. In general, we are more fluid, and we have a stronger connection to creation, to primordial creativity. So we really need to use that as a strength. We're also tend to be more emotionally absorbent. So we're more That can be a downside, right? Because we may have issues with the boundaries, right? We may take on others' emotions. We may get triggered more by others' emotions. We may take responsibility for others. Could be trapped in people-pleasing patterns, all this kind of stuff, right? That can go along with having the more sensitive energy body. But if you can learn to really use that as a gift, it means you have a lot of emotional intelligence. The fluidity means that women are generally better at pivoting when things don't work out, if they can move past any feelings of being a failure or disappointment. That's where someone can get trapped. If you get stuck in that emotion, you can't then just go, okay, why isn't this working? And what do I need to tweak or pivot? Sometimes it's just like one little shift away and something goes from, a failure to phenomenally successful, right? But if you're trapped in what didn't work, you can't do that. So the feminine energy body is also really about embracing fluidity.
Yeah, more of that. More of that as entrepreneurs, right?
Yeah.
Like the first few years of business, I feel like take the masculine grit, some of the hustle, some of the just, get it done energy. But I just feel like I keep having this conversation with folks who have done that and burnt out and are now, I feel like we're on this, my community is kind of turning this corner to thinking about how can we have more fluidity? How can pivots feel more natural and less of a pull out the paperwork, figure this out kind of thing. Yeah. So you obviously have been doing this work for a while, and in order to do this work for a while, you've had to call in some of the energy of money to make this sustainable. So if you were to give yourself advice, a couple of years ago, or even just looking back on your entrepreneurial journey, what do you wish someone would have told you about using these energetic tools to, be a successful business owner? What's some hindsight advice you'd have for yourself, but really us, Yeah.
I think the big one was I still had blocks to being able to value what I do and being able to ask others for, that price that I wanted, right, for a long time. And coming to comfort with that, what worked for me, because I also always do offer sliding scale. So that's just my thing, right? And coming to this comfortable way of managing the sliding scale, but also asking for what I want in price and worth, and working through that inner work with why was I having difficulty with this, valuing what other people valued. Why was I having trouble valuing it, right? I think from a business perspective, I think giving myself permission to do things my way. I do not do social media works very well for me. When I want to do a workshop, most of it is filled through social media, some light advertising there. But I don't do social media the way you're supposed to do it. I do not follow any of the rules. I do not post regularly. I do not do reels. I never show my face. I don't have a set template. I do it all myself. I've tried 3 times to hire social media. Didn't work for me. So it works for me. It works for me what I'm doing. And I had to experiment a bit and just finally come to, okay, I am breaking some of the rules of what you're supposed to do, but this is actually working for me. When I want to fill a workshop, my social media does what it's supposed to do. So I'm not going to mess with it. Right. I love
that. And I'll just
permission.
Permission. Exactly. Cause I've said this on the show before that permission, please, is always helpful for us who do the overthinking or the people pleasing aspect, but there is no one size fits all. And right now we're in a environment where a lot of business coaches and a lot of well-intentioned people who have figured out their way want to make it a blueprint, want to make it a copy me sort of thing. And this is honestly why I stepped away from coaching, like doing the business coaching and getting into people's businesses, because we're looking outward for the shiny object, for someone else how to tell us how to do it. When, like we've talked about here today, it's within us. It's based on our strengths. It's based on what's worked in the past. And so for those of you looking for the marketing secret today, figure out what feels good, figure out what's worked in the past, and just do more of that, more of that. And like you said, we don't all have to dance and point on a reel. Yeah. Permission
exactly.
for that. Amazing, Lisa. Well, if folks are listening and are feeling like I need some of this enlightened energetics in my life and business, where can they learn more about you and continue this conversation?
Yeah, well, enlightenedenergetics.com is my website, and I'm on Facebook and Instagram under Chakra Empowerment. And my books are both available on Amazon and a lot of other places as well, Chakra Empowerment for Women and The Art and Science of Meditation. And I do have a depending on when this is airing, I have a Chakra Manifesting workshop coming up in June.
Amazing. Amazing. Well, we'll make sure that folks can connect with you whenever they find you and this over. And Chakra Empowerment is the socials. And we'll make sure we have a link to the website, which is Enlightened Energetics. So amazing. I'm feeling inspired to go check in with my chakras.
Go for it.
After this and check out some of the resources that you have. This has been so enlightening, not to be cliche, but I really feel that way. So
thank you, Hannah. It's been a pleasure.
Yes. And listeners, I'll be back next week with another inspiring guest that will help you make your dream life and business a reality.